Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? I'm Mike King, and you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The weekly drunk movie review podcast. Just two quick announcements and then we'll get into a great episode. First, how about those Golden Globes, huh? Yikes, what a mess. Well, if you want to see just how wild they were, check out the latest episode of Goldfingers, our data-driven Oscar prediction video series. We don't cover the Golden Globe ceremony in this episode because we're not that quick, but you can see and compare where our predictions stood before Bohemian Rhapsody shocked everyone with that win. Crazy. Anyway, it's available on our YouTube now. Just search How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up or find a direct link at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss a beat of this awards season. And once again, our first live show of the year is Sunday, January 27th at 3 p.m. at South Street Cinema in Philadelphia as part of the 2019 Everything is Awesome Headstrong Comedy Festival. Admission is free, but you're encouraged to make a donation to Headstrong, which provides services to improve the lives of those affected by cancer. It's a great cause, great event, lots of great podcasts, and we'll have some great guests joining us on stage to discuss some great things. Just great. Hope to see you there. Alright, this week we're reviewing Roma with Matt and Chris from the band Seagulls. If you're listening to this on drop day, their new album comes out tomorrow. Otherwise, it's already out, so go check it out after you finish this episode. Okay, all done. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing the Netflix exclusive Roma.
More like Netflix and chill with the single takes, Alfonso.
Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting sassed and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to John Wildarski on Facebook for that synonym suggestion. Check out John's podcast, the Throttled Outboard Stock Racing Podcast.
Wow.
Very niche for stock boat racing, but he started it. He's doing pretty well, so check that out if you're a fan of stock boat racing.
Gotta capitalize on that niche market, man.
Hell yeah.
It's probably got more listeners than we do.
Yes. But Joe, do you want to introduce the two fine fellows sitting betwixt us?
I would love to. Betwixt us, we have Matt Whittle and... I just panicked as soon as I saw your name again.
It's okay.
Chris Lipczynski.
Lipczynski. All good.
Fuck!
No worries.
And you guys are both from the band Seagulls.
That's right.
And I've been trying to get you on the podcast for a while. I feel like we had you guys on this episode just because your new album comes out the day that this is released, tomorrow. So if you're listening to this episode the day that it comes out, new album tomorrow, you guys can check it out then and anytime afterwards. Surprise, you got an album you can go listen to. But anyway, no, but I was really, really into the first two singles you guys had put out and everything too.
Thank you.
So I was super excited to have you guys on and everything. But yeah, you want to plug Seagulls a little bit? And...
Yeah, sure. So we're an indie rock band. I guess there are some... we vary towards like R&B in some ways with this new album. It's not straight.
Right.
Indie rock, a lot of harmonic vocals. We got like sort of My Morning Jacket-y Fleet Foxes comparisons for the first album because it was sort of more folk based, but I think this one is more pop and, like I said, R&B, so just more varied in general. There's still some folk elements, but so yeah, we put out our first record in 2015.
Cool.
And I guess that was the delay with this one, was we were waiting. We wanted to have something.
Oh yeah, you guys were finding like a...
Oh, looking for labels and stuff?
Yes,
yeah. That's always an ongoing
quest.
Search, yeah. But we found, we ended up working with two labels for this, one on the digital side and one on the physical side, putting out a CD, and another team is helping us put out the digital one, everything that comes with that. So, yeah, we're super excited about the videos and stuff, like you mentioned. I'm sure we'll link those
Yeah, definitely.
comment, like, and subscribe.
Right, yes.
You see those hearts going.
Ring that bell, boys.
So I play guitar and sing in the band. Chris plays guitar.
And what's the album called?
The album's called Throne Voice. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't say that.
Throne Voice.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, yeah.
First album, Grapevine. This album, Throne Voice. Like You Do and If Only are the two singles. I just looked right at the camera. Sorry.
Never. I can't.
Do not make eye contact with my camera.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, we're super excited to get it out there. Also, you said this is coming out the 10th or 11th.
The
Album comes out Friday the 11th.
yes, this will come out Thursday the 10th.
Thursday the 10th. So we're also doing a show in Philly at Philomoka
Okay.
on the 12th, Saturday the 12th. So in 2 days from now.
I love that venue.
It's awesome.
It's that used to be like a mausoleum factory or something.
Mausoleum Factory.
Yes.
They were creating mausoleums.
Mausolea.
Wait, a mausoleum's like a...
Looking up the
Oh,
definition.
yeah.
Quickly searches. They come off a conveyor belt, pre-made.
Oh, yeah. It was. It was a... I was
was.
like, did I see the right word? Yeah, it was. They were literally fucking making mausoleums there.
All right.
Yeah.
And Diplo like owned it at one point.
Yeah,
And
it was like the Mad Decent headquarters or something for a while. I don't know. I got really... It was like there really early for a show one time, and I was just kind of like looking around. And there are parts of both of those pieces of history everywhere.
Diplo history.
Yeah.
my favorite kind of history.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we'll see you there. Thanks for coming. Thanks for paying ahead.
No,
and,
yeah. Oh boy.
Let's drink some beer.
Let's do it.
So this week we're drinking Tecate Original.
I can't believe we've never had Tecate before on this
Authentica
podcast.
Lager Mexicana.
Mexican beer for a Mexican film.
I didn't even put that together. Good call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's good.
Drink. How dare you?
Well, I mean, I see you
No,
guys
at
haven't
your
graduated to a real alcohol, wine, but
You're classier than us. We get it.
someday, keep working towards it.
All right. Joe, you have notes for this, correct?
Yes, I do.
Because I sure don't, so I hope
Okay.
you do.
Yeah. So you want to give me that? What does IMDb think this movie is about?
A story that chronicles a year in the life of a middle-class family's maid in Mexico City in the early 1970s. So middle class, like, he's a doctor, and she's like a...
Professor, I think.
Right,
At some
yeah.
time. But then she seems like she's kind of like a stay-at-home mom-ish. I don't know. Yeah,
They could afford two maids. Like, I feel like that's at least upper class at that point.
But-
But he himself, Alfonso Cuarón, describes it as middle-class upbringing. I don't know.
But yeah,
I'm middle class. I never had had a maid growing
yeah.
up.
Well, that's like a gigantic like criticism of this movie. It's kind of like, oh, you wrote a fucking movie about your fucking maid, dude. Like,
Whose
fucking,
review is this?
you fucking rich guy, dude. But that's actually like I don't know. It's just like looking into that and everything. That's like a gigantic part of the culture. Literally everyone has maids. And it's just, I mean, at least in the 70s and everything, that was a gigantic part of the culture. It's a way that, you have help around the house. It's a way for people with less kind of education could get a buck. And these people kind of became a part of these people's families and everything. I don't know. Yeah. And I think they're well-to-do, but they are still kind of middle class.
Yeah.
There is definitely like a gap between the have and the have-nots, obviously, in this area. But yeah, anyway, I'll do my notes real quick. Alfonso Cuarón has previously directed A Little Princess, Great Expectations, E2, Mama Tambien, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Children of Men, and Gravity. It stars Yalitza Aparicio, Marina de Tavira, Marco Graf, Daniela de Mesia, Enoch Leano, and Daniel Valtierra. I'm going to give you guys the same apology I gave Chris. I butchered all of their names. Anyway, yeah, I mean, just to give... or you know what, actually, first, Roma had its world premiere at the 75th Venice International Film Festival on August 30th, 2018, where it won the Gold Lion It began a limited theater run on November 21st, 2018, and it started streaming on Netflix on December 14th, 2018. It's been nominated for 3 Golden Globes, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Foreign Language. And just to set up like the conversation, this movie is, I mean, we'll talk about this too, but like I went into this movie knowing almost nothing, kind of. But basically it's set in the early 1970s. The film is like a semi-autobiographical take on Karan's upbringing in Mexico City, and it follows the life of a live-in housekeeper to his slightly more upper middle class family. It says middle class family here too.
Which one is it?
Upper middle class, I think.
Yeah, upper middle class. Right. The title refers to the Colonia Roma, which is the neighborhood that they live in Mexico City. I was wondering why it was called Roma for.
I didn't look that up, but that makes sense.
I was like, "There's no tomatoes in this movie.
There's no pizza." Yeah,
but I'm assuming. How did you guys watch this? We all probably watched it on Netflix, right?
Yeah,
I watched it on Netflix.
Did you guys watch it on your smartphones like the president of Netflix was saying we would all do?
No.
He was like, I don't see why we can't.
He was trying to like respond to the backlash of everyone being like, this is a movie that deserves to be on the big screen, seen by everyone. And he's like, I think you're going to find a lot of people are going to be watching Roma on their smartphones. And like,
Maybe
it's a
on
movie
an
that's made
Oculus
to
or
be
something.
watched on your smartphone.
I saw a tweet like responding to that. It was like, do you know how hard it is to mix something in Dolby Atmos? Like it was just like this completely like very complex sound mixing, which I was telling Mike about this earlier. Hate to keep hogging the mic here, but this mic. I'll let you guys be with him.
You guys got your turn.
Give us my.
But anyway, I was talking to a friend who saw this in 5K projection, Dolby Atmos kind of theater, just like the most high quality surround sound in like a theater you could have. I don't even know if you call it a surround sound once it gets to a theater. Anyway, I was telling Mike, it was like he just kept being like, I just would get angry. He's like, during the movie, I was like, he'd be like, who the fuck is talking during this movie or whatever? But it was just that it was mixed so well in some of those crowd scenes and the Dolby Atmos. There's like, it sounds like people are talking behind you and in front of you. Like, fuck, man, that's some like really immersive audio. Like, that's fucking.
It's like turning around and yelling at people who are totally silent.
Hey, shut up, Spanish people!
Silencio!
Yeah, I once had. I was seeing. After it wasn't okay, there was the Green Inferno, which is an Eli Roth like cannibal movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
it's like the Hannibal
Holocaust. Yeah,
Hannibal.
Hannibal Holocaust.
Hannibal Buress Holocaust.
Hannibal Lecter.
But right after that was the Shyamalan one with like the grandparents who have like diapers.
Okay.
They, like, rub them on people or something. I really don't remember most of it, but they started playing when I went to see the Green Inferno. They played. Whatever that Shyamalan movie was called. Sorry, I can't recall it right now. And like
the
some
Home or something.
The
I don't
Visit?
know.
coming
The Visit.
Yeah.
Is it The Visit?
And so some of us, obviously, there's an overlap of people that are going to see the Green Inferno and people that are going to see The Visit. And so some of us realized that they were playing the wrong movie. When they see Green Inferno, they played The Visit, and people like started yelling out. It was like, "Yo, this movie sucks!" Because it's also this like bystander effect of like who's going to take charge to tell them they're playing the wrong movie. And someone's like, "Shut up!" because they didn't know. So like we're like yelling at like strangers in the
That
theater.
sounds like a
It was
nightmare.
very strange, but rest assured, they ended up playing the Green Inferno.
It's like one of my favorite vines is like when The Force Awakens comes out and it was like the midnight premiere or whatever. And there's just like that drop in like audio when it's like before like the main theme comes on or whatever. And there's like just like a vine of just like opening night and everyone's like cheering and somebody is taking a picture of the screen, so there's a huge fucking flash and it's like booming audio cuts out and then goes to the main theme, but like in that like kind of valley somebody's like, turn off your fucking flash. And then it goes
That's awesome.
It's like a really just like there's so many noises going on and then there's just that guy's voice.
It's funny when things go wrong when you're at a theater. Like I saw Phantom Thread and they left the lights on for the first 15 minutes. And people were very pissed off. I was pissed as well.
Fuck that movie.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's
You know
good.
what? Let's.
All right, yeah. Let's go into this one.
It's not
I'm
wrong.
gonna give you ratings. Let's get out of the fucking episode.
I did see. I did see some like review of this
I thought you were
movie.
going to say I did watch this on a phone.
Oh no, I watched it on this TV, but I love this. It's so like ironic that this is the Netflix. This is probably gonna be Netflix first Best Picture movie to be nominated at the Academy Awards, and like it's just funny that everyone's watching this on maybe a phone and probably their TV when it's the most beautiful movie I've seen in like years. Like I think
it's like I want to say this is like obviously Netflix is going to go out of their way to buy whatever they think is the best movie, but I just wish someone else had bought this movie, because I can't think of a worse movie to premiere on Netflix, because it's foreign language, and like watching something at home, it just, you want to pull out your phone, you want to be doing stuff while you're watching a movie, you're not fully devoted,
right?
And with like a subtitled movie, you need to be watching the entire time. If you look away for a little bit, you're lost. And then a movie like this where it's beautiful looking, but it's in black and white. So like I found myself at times feeling like I couldn't actually comprehend the information that was on the screen. Whereas like I feel like if I watched in a movie theater, projected in large format, I would have been able to take everything in, being like, oh, that's what's happening right now. But like when they have like the scene in like the hospital with like the earthquake, like I couldn't fully tell what we were looking at. Like, is a baby actually dead in that scene? Like, just because of the black and white quality of the movie, watching it on a smaller screen. Like, this is a movie that I feel like needed to be seen in theaters, and it didn't really get that wide release that it should have gotten.
This is the most crystal clear black and white I've ever seen, though, and I'm glad it's also black and white, just because, can you imagine how fucking overwhelmed you'd be if this was in color? There's so many things going on in this movie. Yeah, but yeah.
It's just something that deserved a chance for more people to see it on the big screen before we all watched on Netflix.
Just right off the bat, I do love this movie, and like that impression that I was doing was based off like some, like a few, like a culmination of like a few different like reviews I saw on Letterboxd, and I'm going to address all of these things. But I've seen people who are just like this one girl. I was getting so mad reading her review. She was like, the story is lacking. The lead character doesn't feel like a real person. She doesn't like have any agency in her own life. Like things are just happening to her. And the movie's just like tragedy porn, which I can understand a little. And then she also mentions, like the Alfonso Cuarón, like, I'm a millionaire who made like a fucking, movie about my maid or whatever. And I don't know, it's kind of like, what insight does he have to make about like this? She's like, if like when like that final like card came up, it was like for, what is her name? Like Liba or yeah. She's like, I would have been like, fuck you, like Alfonso Cuarón. And I was like, I don't like this review. So over the course of this, I'm going to be like, and that's why she's wrong too. I'm going to find this girl and send this review to her.
I want to push back slightly on this should be seen in theaters type
all
of
right,
thing,
go for
because so as musicians, we have to plan for like knowing people aren't going to listen on like amazing headphones or in like an amazing stereo or something. Like a lot of people are just going to press play on their laptop, and like their shitty MacBook audio is going to play our stuff
for that.
And it's like, I don't know, I guess like at this point I don't know, it doesn't seem fair to make a movie and then be upset if people don't see it in theaters, because that's, you should change with the times. Like if that's not how people are watching movies, then why not?
Well, I mean, I think my thing is he makes the movie not knowing who's going to purchase it to distribute it. So he doesn't make it for Netflix.
Okay.
He makes it premieres at a film fest. Netflix goes there and says, we're going to buy everything that we can afford. Like they have the big money now. They just go out, they throw dollars at people and end up buying as much stuff as possible.
They'll go to Sundance, just buy the whole thing.
So they don't buy it even before it's made? Or like, I guess that does happen sometimes?
They do.
Or?
There are Netflix originals,
Okay.
but this was like, they bought it after it premiered, I'm pretty sure.
So like a different...
So he made it not knowing how it was going to premiere.
Sure.
They, as the distributor, go there, they buy it and distribute it that way.
Gotcha.
And there was a big backlash on Twitter and online of people being like, they released it like very limited in theaters,
right?
But the big rollout was it premiering online on Netflix. And it's like, I don't know, like they could have done like a month or something where it did actually have a wide release, and then it's on Netflix. And I thought that almost could have worked better for them, like if it had this actual good opening in theaters to create the hype, because there's not a huge hype around like Netflix original movies dropping.
It's like anti-hype.
Yeah,
Like,
they,
people
like,
think
they
they're bad.
bury their own content.
They did actually promote this. Like when you log their login screen, if you're
Yeah.
switching profiles, it has like Roma as the background. So I think they know that they have to promote this a little bit better than they normally do. But I don't know. I just wish it would have gone wide for like a week or two, and then they can put it on Netflix and be like, all right, you had your chance to see it. Now you can watch it on.
Right.
You know.
I don't think it ever had a shot of being released like in proper theaters for a wide release because it's subtitled, it's foreign. I think they probably made a calculated decision that the amount of people who are going to go to like an art house film to go see this is not going to really. It's only going to be increased if we get it in front of them in Netflix.
It might still come back out. Maybe they're banking on that. Like when it gets nominated, a lot of times they'll re-release the movies in theaters because now everyone wants to go see the Best Picture nominees. So it might come out sort of wider at that point because there's not a whole lot of like big budget movies coming out.
A lot of people probably saw it who wouldn't have seen this at all.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think for the director, he's probably like, this is probably a net benefit or a net gain.
It's more accessible, and like he was saying too, it's just kind of like, I didn't realize that Netflix didn't fund this from the beginning, but I mean like this pitch has to be a nightmare, just kind of like, or just like this must be a nightmare for studios unless they want like Oscar buzz or something, because it's like, all right, I've got this black and white film about my maid when I was little and it's none of it is English, and and it's like, and I need like quite a few $1 million to like make these gigantic sets and everything, and I don't know.
I think the budget was $15 million.
I was very surprised when I saw that. Wow. I thought it was going to be like 60 mil or something. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about.
It's funny to look at because the box office is 1.4 million because it was in 0 theaters. Like, because we still don't know how to like calculate like, well, how well did it do on Netflix? How much money did Netflix make? Because they don't release their like streaming numbers.
Kind of impossible to.
That's nebulous. Like,
right. Yeah.
So like on the surface, it's like, oh man, the movie lost like $13 million.
But yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about, I don't know if you guys saw last year's Darren Aronofsky film Mother.
Yeah.
But this we reviewed it last year. Just basically, it's the reason I brought it up. It's just like this very subjective kind of like point of view. Like it was filmed entirely like POV kind of, or just kind of like very close up, or like over somebody's shoulder of J-Law, Jennifer Lawrence.
You can call her J-Law. That's fine.
I mean, that's what I call her in text when I'm texting her.
Pizza girl.
Yeah, she loves pizza. That humanizes her.
Yeah. She's just such a normal.
She's so real.
But you don't know she's gonna. She might stand up on a table and like do like. She's just one of us.
She might Coyote Ugly this shit.
Do you know how many times like she trips at the Oscars?
She like swears and she's like, "I've been drinking."
Right. Yeah. But whereas this film, I don't know. I love this cinematography. I think it's just like, I don't think I'm going to see anything that has a better cinematography than this year. But literally, every shot is just like the camera either like gliding side to side, or it's like tilting, or it's panning. And that's it. Or it's like a combination of one of those two. And as an audience, you feel like objectively like removed from these characters too. It feels like very impersonal almost.
Conscious decision. I was listening to the
like
Director's Cut podcast, and he said he intentionally removed himself from like dollying in or out. It's always just left to right, or sort of tilting left to right on a single axis. I also think it's interesting that like Alfonso Cuarón, he usually tends to work with Chivo, the Emmanuel Lubezki, the great cinematographer, and he had him on board for this at the beginning, and they were like storyboarding and preparing and stuff together, and then the movie started getting more complicated, and it started like involving more time, and eventually Chivo just had to kind of drop out and be like, I have too many other commitments, I can't do it. And this was like a couple weeks before they started filming. Jesus. So then Cuarón was just like, I guess I'll do it myself, and then he makes this like actually beautifully shot movie, like. And he said he's done DP work before, like he did DP when he was in school and for a bunch of the TV shows that he worked on,
right?
Which I'm not familiar with, so I don't know if those were on Mexican TV or. But yeah, he said this is the first time he's done like a feature length film as a DP.
Yeah. Speaking of Phantom Thread, because that was shot by, like I think P.T. Anderson.
He did.
He dropped his cinematographer and just shot Phantom Thread by himself. Yeah.
Very true.
But I like it. I don't know. There's something also about the black and white quality and using like modern technology to view something in the 1970s and like the kind of like observer. Like he does that a little bit in E2 Mama Tambien or whatever. We're just kind of like the camera will kind of go off on its own adventure and like the narrator will speak over it. But I love this. Like this is like watching a memory. Yeah. Kind of. And it's also like we don't have the guidance of like a narrator this time. It's just kind of, it presents things to you and you kind of like interpret them how you may.
Yeah, and it's like, it's different from other stuff that he's done where like, I mean, you think of like Children of Men, he has that really long oneer where he's following the one guy around Clive Owen.
Blood gets on the screen, or like some schmutz gets on the screen.
Like, but there's no like following shots in this. Like they'll have shots where it just, like every scene is kind of just like one shot, the camera's in one place and it either like dollies left to right or it tilts left to right to capture whatever the action is. And there'll be times like because we're following the Cleo character so closely, the camera will be set up somewhere and we're just kind of like, whoa, where's Cleo? Where's Cleo? Like, and then she will walk through the action like towards the camera and then we're kind of like, oh, okay, that's where she is.
And it's crazy because it's not like whipping and catching a moment that's happening. It like has no, like the camera itself is just kind of like this thing that has no opinion. And things just happen to be happening in front of it.
Yeah,
kind of.
I was
it's
describing it
weird.
as like slow and like semi-stationary. Like, because there's a lot of shots where it's just, it's this. You're looking at this, and then if the action happens to move, we tilt over this way or we dolly over this way.
Yeah, the opening shot of, or like the credits at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah,
she's
mopping
like
the floor and
right. Yeah, I mean, it's like the dog do wash. We find out later.
Yeah. Lots of dog shit in this house.
Dude, fucking Roscoe just needs to fucking.
Wait, wasn't it like Burro or something?
There's a few dogs.
commercial dog.
What commercial dog?
There's like a commercial for like some like bug exterminator, and it's like, oh, Roscoe. It's like their mascot.
Yeah, he wants the baked beans recipe, I think.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's not right. That's Duke.
I think I got it. But anyway, so that's
There's too many dogs in commercials. Can we cut down on that?
a plane like flies overhead.
That has to be
They're
CG,
okay,
right?
I just wanted to ask. We think that's
That
CGI?
has to.
It ends with the plane, the very last thing in the
Planes
movie, right?
are huge.
There are so many planes in this
Okay,
movie,
all right.
and that one I think has to be CG.
Maybe he
I don't
knew
know.
like the trajectories of planes.
And every 6 days they did that shot. And
Were you guys tracking sort of the symbolism behind the planes the whole time?
When else did it pop up?
That was huge.
I remember
the kid talks about being a pilot at one point in a past life.
Yeah, in the first scene, I was like, all right, this seems pretty rife with symbolism. The first scene, she's mopping. Then the plane comes into focus. The plane is like the first thing you see moving throughout the theater. And it tracks throughout. There's a few different times. The one that I remember the most is when she's in the theater with her boyfriend, Furman. Is that how we pronounce
Furman.
it? Yeah. And they're literally watching like a World War II film where these Germans are, one side is shooting down the plane. Them shooting down the plane coincides with him essentially leaving and like kind of screwing her over after she tells him
Yo, he
she's
gets
pregnant.
out of there quick.
Yeah.
Like mid-sentence.
Yo, I gotta use a bathroom real quick.
That is like the quickest like deadbeat dad move. Like it's like seconds he makes that decision.
It's not even.
He went out for some cigarettes.
Right, it's not like, oh yeah, maybe we'll have a third date. It's just kind of like, I gotta go.
Yeah,
Like,
I gotta go
just
practice like nude like bow staff.
fellas. Folks, listen. If you want to impress a girl, take her Virginia. You gotta do kung fu.
Yeah.
You gotta do.
Do you know if specifically that was kung fu?
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what fighting style it was, but he takes the shower bar off and does some nude
Martial arts.
Yeah, because I remember seeing like the descriptor, like it said like I think language and like some nudity or something.
Naked karate man.
Yeah, very specific. Yeah.
Naked karate, adult naked karate situation.
Parents are like, it's not sex. It's naked karate. Yeah, just turn it on for the kids.
The V-chip setting is like naked karate.
It's like post-coital karate. Like they already fucked, right? Or is that how he's...
No, I think it's before, because then...
I thought it was after.
Then maybe they fucked twice, but he sits down in the bed and then he starts kissing her again, and then it leads into...
that's a weird thing. Why is he flaccid?
Too. Performing like
he's about to have sex. Wouldn't you do boner karate?
Although that cut was so funny when they were about to go into the movies, and they're like, "Come on, it's a nice day out," and then just immediately cut to rain on a window, and they're inside. Like that was crazy.
That was a tangent. Where are we going from here? We were talking about symbolism, maybe.
Yeah,
There's a ton in this.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that kid has a lot of like sort of premonitions through these like dialogue with Cleo, because like at the one point right before the big sort of dramatic moment at the end, I don't want to spoil it just yet, but he's talking about, you know, I used to be like a sailor in my past life, and I was in this heavy storm and I was drowning. I mean, I guess that's kind of a spoiler right there, but
Yeah. Yeah, that part, that was odd. That was kind of a cool part, though.
Something, yeah. I don't want to say it before spoilers. I don't know. I really loved the casting of this movie, too. I feel like there's, like, a lot of people are going to go see this movie, and for the first time, they're going to, like, see somebody who looks like them on screen, especially, like, our protagonist. I forget what her name is.
Cleo?
Yeah, Cleo.
as much as I've made fun of like the whole like, you know, people watching this on their phone, I almost think I would have had a better experience watching this on my phone.
Okay.
Maybe not for the sound quality of it.
Right.
But like watching it, like maybe it's just the setup of my living room, but my TV, kind of like yours, is far away from my couch just because of the size of the living room.
Those, yeah.
So like watching it, like I felt like I couldn't recognize
Fucking hate my life.
anyone's
Get me out of
faces.
here.
So like all the like the two older boys looked the same to me from like watching far back on my couch. Adela and Roma looked very similar to me. And like just what I felt like if I had it on my phone, I could pull the phone closer to my face and be like, okay, now I can actually recognize people and whatnot. Because there's so many times in this movie where I'm like, this looks good. This, you know, it's great like setup and framing and whatnot, but I can't tell exactly what's going on from my vantage point on the couch.
I didn't totally have that problem, but just to round out that one point, I don't know. I think it's just phenomenal casting. I don't think she's ever acted before this. I think I was reading.
They found her.
And
he was saying that she originally she
didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
she's pretty
assumed
wild,
she
right?
was.
She didn't know who he was, so she wasn't like impressed by him at all, and she almost turned the movie down because she's like, I'm applying to be a teacher, so I don't know if I want to get involved in a movie right now.
Right.
And the only reason she accepted it was because I guess the way it works in Mexico, it's all through like the government, and she's like, and it's by age, so she's like, my age won't get their applications reviewed for like 8 months, so I've got nothing better to do for the next 8 months.
Wow.
So if you want to make a movie, let's go for it.
But yeah, no, I think there are going to be people in like Mexico or from that part of the world, no matter where they're living, like right now, that is going to look at this and be like, oh my god, like that looks like the people I know and everything, as opposed to the family, which is kind of like a lighter skin kind of and everything.
That was the whole
but
thing
like,
I didn't realize.
it's just kind of like we just reviewed like Widows, and it's just kind of like I love Michelle Rodriguez, but it's like not everybody kind of like not all Latin women look like that. It'd be like saying like, oh, like Scarlett Johansson. Well, it's kind of like I'd have a girlfriend that looked
where
like.
He says that there's actual like race issues in this movie that, I mean, me as someone from the United States, I wasn't familiar with, where you know, there's people like the middle class family, and then there's the indigenous people of Mexico,
right?
You know, and that's who like Roma and Adela are, and there's this sort of like class disparity, but there's also a racial disparity going on there. And he's like, it's similar to he's like racism happens all over the world, you know.
Right.
She's from Oaxaca, further towards Central America,
right,
sort of more European or Spanish sort of descent, it looks like.
Yeah. Also, Adela is her real life best friend. Or almost like, you know,
really
to try and convince her, he was like, you know, we haven't casted Adela yet. Who's your best friend? Does she want to be in a movie?
That's awesome. Wow. That's so good.
Yeah, but I don't want to leave that point off on that. I'm not speaking down to Michelle Rodriguez. She's beautiful. It's just like there's so much more representation of like white people, like ugly to beautiful and everything in between on the movie screen, and there's very little representation. So I loved seeing everything that was going on in these. I don't know. I just love her character too. At first I was kind of like, this is kind of a snooze. But then I don't know, she finds like this healing with those kids.
Well, yeah.
And just...
She's presented, there's like the first few scenes, I felt like there was a clear distinction between men and women.
Right, yes.
It's pretty heavy-handed, actually. Like, they're all kind of, you know, subordinates. They're doing laundry. They're cleaning up dog shit.
Yeah.
The dog is sort of affiliated with the dad and all this, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, she was awesome. They're always serving tea, which is like, I don't know.
I do
It's
love
very
the
nurturing
way that,
sort of symbolism.
the way that
with
like
them.
Men are represented in this movie.
It's super one-dimensional. which is what it's supposed to be.
We've had so many representations of men in other ways that it's nice to
flips it.
I'll take the shit for a while, if you want to shit on men. Yeah. But like it goes down to like even like the kids, because it's not even just all men, it's like masculinity. Mm-hmm. So like in that one scene where she's on the roof washing something and the two kids come up, what is it, Paco and I forget all their older kid's name. But they're playing like the gun game, and he's like, "You're supposed to be dead," and he's like, "Well, why?" And he's like, "Well, because I started the game like it's my rules. Like I say you're supposed to be dead," and that's that sort of like authoritative, like it's my way or the highway. Wherever I say goes, and my older brother is buying into that, and Paco has sort of got a little bit of a more. He's not completely bought into the masculine image like the other men in this movie are.
Like the guy pulling the car with his teeth.
Very
masculine. Did you guys try doing the?
Yes,
I didn't try that.
Easy.
Really?
No, it's. I can do it with your eyes open. But when the second you shut your eyes, you lose your center of balance. It's really actually it's very difficult.
Oh, I love that
scene.
scene.
Like I hope nobody.
There's a plane in that one too.
Yeah,
like,
I
it's
know.
going behind him.
I hope nobody takes this as an insult, but it reminded me of like Wes Anderson movies, like specifically like Fantastic Mr. Fox, or even like scenes in like Isle of Dogs. He always has that sort of like, and maybe it's just because those shots are so like head on, and like the mystical guy is like right in the center of the frame. But it reminds me of like in Fantastic Mr. Fox when they're like driving away and they see that wolf in the distance and they just like put their fist up. Like there's just something like sort of like otherworldly about the way that it's framed, and just sort of like this strange figure in the distance. Like
I was about to say that guy is very mystic.
Yeah. And I don't know, I love that scene. It was like sort of like it felt like a tangent at first, and then I was like, no, I'm totally bought into this.
That was a great scene. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. This movie is hard to discuss without spoilers. I feel like we could get into spoiler territory.
You
at
guys
this
usually
point.
avoid spoilers.
We do at
For like the first half.
and then it's just kind of like, if this movie seems interesting to you and you really don't want to have it spoiled, like you can turn it off now and watch the movie and everything. But no, I think spoilers are an important part of a review.
But one thing we could talk about that's like sort of pre-spoilers.
Okay.
Just kind of like a funny talking point. Going into this movie, I kind of wanted to hate it because there's this whole thing around Alfonso Cuarón where when he made Gravity, just Google Alfonso Cuarón Gravity, like stealing or theft or something like that. I forget the writer's name, but someone basically wrote a original screenplay for Gravity when whatever studio that was making it originally was trying to procure that, and then there was some like changing of hands where it got bought by either New Line was the first one or New Line bought it, or the studio got bought out by someone else, so the rights transferred, and they had this whole agreement in place, and eventually they started trying to make the movie Gravity, and like he had been involved as a director from the beginning, working with this woman's script.
Okay.
And then they don't want to make it, then the studio gets like switched, and then he's back on board working on this, and then they basically make Gravity, which like her original version of the script was like a much longer thing, like her being marooned in space was just a smaller part of a larger story, and arguably the Gravity movie that gets made is probably the better version, but he still just basically takes this idea from her script, from something that he's been involved in for like years with this studio, and makes this movie, and they give her no credit, they pay her nothing because they had already bought the rights to the script, and then it goes on to like get all this Oscar success that year, and nobody knows that like she came up with this idea and he basically like stole it. So going into this movie, I've just always have this sort of like thing in the back of my brain with Alfonso where I'm like, you fucking asshole. Like, you know what you did, and like you couldn't just once storing the press tour being like, oh yeah, we had this great script that we were starting from. We went in a different direction, but that was definitely the kernel of the idea. That's all it takes. Like, you don't even have to put her in the credits of the movie. Just say it at one point that you took the idea from her.
Right, because when you're hiding it, obviously it looks
it looks
like,
surreptitious and disgusting. And so like then in this movie, they have the scene when they go to the theater to watch Marooned, which is like an astronaut movie about like people stuck in space, and it's like clearly like a nod to him having made Gravity before. And like I thought that was kind of weird to like call attention back to that. Clearly he has no guilt about that whole thing that went on.
I thought it was weird when they went to the theaters and watched Prisoner of Azkaban. Also, I was like, did this exist in 1970?
There's some weird time disparity going.
It was a bold choice.
But on the Director's Cut podcast, Alfonso was interviewed by Alejandro Iñárritu, who like Alfonso and Guillermo are part of like the Three Amigos, like famous like trio of Mexican directors. They're all like best friends in real life. And Alejandro was kind of like making fun of that scene, being like, oh, I really loved when you had like Marooned on there, like that's clearly a nod to Gravity. And he's like, well, that was funny in there. And then he's like, well, now we know like where you stole the idea for Gravity from.
Oh my gosh.
And then like Alfonso gets like super flustered after that, and he's just kind of like, oh yeah, like that was so beautiful. I don't know what we were talking about before. I just kind of lost my place. It was so awkward to hear him talking about like theft of the idea of gravity.
Oh man.
He clearly got like thrown off of his thing, but yeah, I just wanted to get that out there.
I do like this though, from like his like point of view, like to kind of like criticize the criticism that I said at the top of the episode. Like it does feel like this kind of like love letter and like apology to like the women that helped like raise him and everything, because there is like a lot of the mom going on and everything too, and the way that the dad is shot is like pretty.
His dad is almost like a like monster in his life, like,
right?
Yeah, the car entering the driveway.
That was something where I wasn't crazy about that scene at first, just because I wasn't totally following what they were going for, and I was like, we're spending a lot of time on this. But then as the movie goes on and you figure out the dad's character, and then like when we see like sort of come back to it, and the mom like crashes the car into there and then comes back with a smaller car at some point. I was like, okay, there's a really good payoff for the time we spent on that scene earlier in the movie.
That first quarter really plays up the distinction between sort of men and women in the society, and I feel like, you know, he's coming in, he's really materialistic. He's making sure he doesn't touch the car, doesn't touch the garage. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're all waiting for him when he gets there. It's clearly like, you know, it's setting the tone for like this. Basically, this whole family is sort of like, you know, just in all of him, so to speak, and he just completely like lets them down. And
the motherfucker takes the bookshelves and not the books.
Yes, he literally takes like the structure from their lives. You know what I mean? And they have to, you know, exist on their own. Is that a spoiler? Fuck.
No. I was about to say we're in spoiler territory again. I highly recommend you watch this film, and then also, I mean, I heard something. Yeah, we're in spoiler territory now, so. You're past your during our Force
Is there like an obnoxious like button?
Now entering the spoiler zone.
Spoil me!
No, why there's a gun?
You're so spoiled.
Oh, please spoil
I
me!
need like some need some drops for that. Somebody stop me from spoiling.
We gotta get a soundboard on this podcast.
Exactly.
This just like transitions into like a morning radio show.
Oh yeah.
Awkward.
We do have a calendar that we'll be giving out.
Oh, we're here on the How Many Fingers podcast.
You boys are holding out on me. How many fingers?
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Well, there. Now you have all the drops that you can
use them later.
Get a board going. All that.
Yeah, that'll fill out a board.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite. Now that we're in spoiler territory, another one of my favorite scenes with like the dad is when she's going into labor or whatever. Her water broke
Or whatever.
or
whatever women do.
Whatever's going on with a woman's body.
Am I right?
Although, actually, okay, so her water breaks.
But she's in just this quick like snapshot of the dad. The dad's in the hospital or whatever. He's in the elevator. He's like instructing her how to breathe, and he's like, God, you know, good luck. I wish I could be in there. And then his doctor,
she won't let me in this.
His doctor's friend is like, oh yeah, you can come. And he's like, oh yeah, I got an appointment or something. Yeah, good luck with that.
That was like Austin Powers, like penis pump territory of like, that's not really my, like, actually it shows like, yeah.
Oh man,
that scene was like super rough. when she delivers the baby.
Oh yeah.
That was like a
It comes out like totally limp.
So I'm expecting my first child in March. I
Yeah.
watched this with my wife, so
Oh,
thanks
no.
for forcing me to
that
watch
was
this
really
harrowing experience with my
yeah.
wife.
That was like
That is the only way to describe this. Harrowing.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And but it's like that's all a one take ski, right? With like
Yep.
the focus is sort of
Yeah.
shifting between like
Yep.
or maybe the baby in the back. Or it comes into the
her and the baby. Yeah,
right. But that's like right in the center with her looking back.
the sound design in that as well was really noticeable to me because she's clearly only concentrating on what's happening with the baby, but they're telling her all these procedures that they're doing. They're like, your placenta's coming
Placenta
out,
coming
Yes.
out. Yep,
and
yep, yep.
but it's totally muffled and
And you can hear in the
panned all the
background,
way
like,
over.
1,
yeah.
2, 3, ventilating. 1, 2, 3, ventilating.
And that's not her focus at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
a great scene.
I think it's easy though to. I won't. I'm just like kind of calling out like, oh, I don't like your fucking review and this movie was great. Fuck you, girl on Letterboxd. Doesn't help that I'm like pointing out that she's a girl. What's with that?
You're a big Devin
Yes,
Faraci
yes,
fan,
uh-huh.
I think.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Get the reference.
But anyway, I don't know if you were fucking like really off put by this scene. I can't stop you from like not liking this movie because I kind of shifted away from this movie when that happened. I was like, whoa, fuck this movie for making me like do that or whatever. And it's just kind of like, you made us care about this character, like something, there needs to be some sort of justification for this. And I think that comes later, and I'll explain that later. But it's also kind of like, man, this is some like real fucking raw reality. This is people's reality.
Yeah.
Just everything in this movie is people's reality. And I think it's like important to like take that into context as well. But it is. That's a fucking harrowing scene. And you have to experience that entire thing with her. And the camera doesn't move. And it's like the camera is making you watch this.
Yeah,
Watch the birth. Watch the death. Watch the just everything that comes afterwards.
Yeah,
It's
they
very
give her the baby and then they're trying to take it away.
Yeah, they're
He's
sorry.
like, say goodbye, say goodbye.
And they're just going through the
take it away.
Oh, yeah, it's
procedure of
awful.
like
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, very little score, right? In this
Yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
then, there's no like dramatic. Like,
I don't know if there is
or
any score at
anything.
all, right?
Yeah,
We're
I think
talking.
it's just the sounds of
Yeah.
whatever's going on.
I think there's a
That
little
scene
bit,
is
maybe
very
not.
cold and procedural, though,
Yeah.
which makes it worse because, like, obviously, like this stuff happens at a hospital, kind of. But for
Yeah.
her, this is fucking
yeah,
devastating.
they're at
Yes.
work.
Yes,
I mean,
no,
obviously
exactly.
they care, but like, yeah,
But it doesn't help the mood of the scene at all.
It's strange because we talked about how kind of the camera's there, kind of just capturing things that happen, and it does feel very slow paced. But when you really kind of analyze it, there's a fire, there's
Yeah.
an earthquake,
Yeah,
there's a riot, there's a
Yes.
stillbirth, and there's a near drowning.
Yeah.
It covers a lot of like, I don't know, natural forces and on a larger scale that kind of come into that Cleo's life in that in that
yeah.
way.
which
There
is
definitely
crazy.
that theme of like disaster kind of like following her, and
And
like,
what's
that's
felt-
supposed to be like the dread of like preparing to be a parent and like God, like can I like keep this kid safe in this world, and then obviously completely outside of her control something happens.
Yeah,
In that earthquake sequence, just because I literally couldn't tell what I was looking at. Did the
baby's dead.
All right, so the rocks did.
was that for sure? I don't know.
I don't know.
There's a baby in like
it's
the
very
doesn't matter. Yeah,
still,
I mean, that
but
baby
yeah,
got-
I don't know.
I didn't know if it was like they had pulled the baby out and rocks crushed the glass, but the baby was gone.
There was a baby in there.
Was
There was
in
a baby-
there.
yeah, yeah.
Rocks didn't crush the glass; they were laying on top.
Okay,
which
okay.
probably shook it enough to do something. I don't know. I think
It didn't
there's
seem like there's any movement.
there's
like,
that
breathing
was
or
the biggest
anything.
thing is that I think
But
there
didn't know
was
if there was a
movement
baby in
before
there at
and
all.
there's
Like,
not.
I'm literally
Yeah.
like,
After
what am I fucking looking at here?
Yeah, I wish you could have watched this in a theater.
Yeah, I wish I
Just
could,
because
too.
now I'm feeling the pain through.
I was
like
also
not
super
being able
tired.
To
Like I went to watch
right.
Mary Poppins right after work yesterday, then came home, ate dinner, and immediately put Roma on, and then fell asleep right after. Just kind of cramming everything before the exam today.
The near drowning scene that you mentioned, and also you said that like the camera's only moving pretty much left to right. That is wild on the beach. It just
I was
moved
trying to think, how did they do
straight-
that?
I was
like,
thinking,
wait for the
it's
tide.
How did they do
They had
it?
to time it with the tide.
It's clearly like on like a dolly of some sort or like a track. But I'm like, even like if it's
In
on
the-
a track,
on
even
the
like a track, like,
sand?
even if
Yeah.
you like fucking put that shit like really deep in the ocean, the waves are gonna move that. Like
That
the
was
only thing I
wild.
could think of is they must have just accounted for there's going to be some shaking and we'll correct it in post as long as we can just get out there.
Gotta stabilize
and
it.
then
We got a crane.
we can
It's
zoom in and auto stabilize or something.
Fucking wild though, because they'll have the camera on a rail on like a perfectly like level sidewalk, and they've somehow mimicked that motion to also take place going into the ocean. It's like the same like passive movement you get during the whole film. I think they had to have built some fucking massive rail or rig that required maybe like 50 people to like behind it or whatever. Like the sound during that is crazy too. Again, I'd love to go see this in some sort of Dolby theater. Like the surf sounds like it's all around you and it's like loud and dangerous, but still like the camera's just kind of like gliding at like a pleasant like half mile an hour or whatever. It's a single shot. There's no cuts, and the camera returns to land, and they're huddling in this perfect formation, and the sun is setting just right behind their heads. How the fuck do you do this? That's not CG. You can't CG a
that was
sunlight.
the artwork
Yeah.
on
You know
the
what
poster,
is probably my favorite like shot sequence in this? It's kind of short, but like when they're just kind of taking the kids when they're at the like cabin in the woods or whatever, and they take the kids out on like the pasture with all the like the livestock and whatnot.
Yes,
it's just kind of like it's sort of like a meaningless scene. They're just kind of talking about like their life back home and their mom or whatever. But they come to like the top of the hill, and there's all the kids like running in the sort of dip in the landscape below, and then like the livestock just like runs past them. Like they had to have people like controlling where the livestock went.
Right.
The camera comes to where it's gonna go. She's right on the perfect side of the frame, and they come right past her, and like the camera even like shakes a little bit.
Could it just be like a happy accident though, or do you think it's that meticulously?
I don't know.
I'd be curious.
Either
This
way,
movie looks
shots they
very
did.
meticulous.
Either
does.
way, it's great.
I mean, think about.
Because they reference it too. Because she even says like, "Oh yeah, they do that back in my village too." The livestock.
It's
so that's either. I
it's
also
written like that. And
I
it's
do
probably
know-
executed.
It's gotta have that. Yeah.
They sort of did like a Curb Your Enthusiasm type thing where there is a script, but Alfonso wouldn't let anyone like view the script. He would just be like, "All right, we're going to talk about this scene. Ask me anything you want to ask me, and we'll decide how everything's supposed to go."
Which is crazy because this is up for best screenplay too.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's also like a
Like
scene.
I'm sure he fed them lines,
Right,
maybe.
yeah.
Like there's definitely that's why I think it's probably like a Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, right, yeah.
Type thing. Like you have to hit
an
these
outline,
beats, but
right?
just
Yes. Mhm.
In between that.
feel it how it goes.
There's when they're at that New Year's Eve party, like the fucking craziest other scene is when after she kind of goes to like that party, she's coming back and she sees like that creepy dude like hit on like the mom or whatever, and then she's just kind of like looking out over the trees or whatever, and you can see fucking the forming of embers like in the like way back, and I was like, how does
Your TV is so much better than mine.
I was like, how?
His phone. He was
It was
watching
just
it on.
black for me.
Oh, like how does
I have an
modern?
old TV. I had it in like since like 2006.
Yeah, but this is like 4K. So
My
it's-
man doesn't
you-
care about film. My man doesn't care about film over here.
My man cares about his wallet. I ain't buying a new TV.
But you can see embers from a mile away, fucking forming. I was like, this has to be CG.
I
Like,
thought it was.
yeah,
I thought that was CG too. It
Yeah,
seemed like
I was
really
like, what the fuck? And I love that fire scene too.
Okay, so let's talk about that scene.
the guy who sings.
The guy
The
singing.
guy who like
I-
it's New Year's,
I'm
right?
not- I don't know if I'm crazy about that.
What?
The guy who kind of comes into
Like
frame,
wearing like a mask, right?
Yeah. But he kind of like steps into frame perfectly and kind of like sings, like looking towards the fire, and then like walks away. It kind of looked like it was from another movie. For me,
It felt
That-
very surreal. Yeah.
That gave me that same mystical feeling from like the karate scene though, where it just kind of felt like let's step outside of what you're really watching for a minute and just capture this sort of like feeling. It didn't
This
seem
film does
it
have
wasn't
mystic
it wasn't
elements too,
plot
yeah.
driven. It was just. And again, like I know everything that he wrote about this is just kind of like diving into his memories, so that could be just something that stuck with him.
Yeah.
Piece of a memory.
We watched
yeah.
a fire at the like hacienda that we were staying at, and
sang.
someone was just singing when New Year's came around. He was also saying that like this is the first film that he didn't show to like the screenplay to Guillermo and Alejandro when he wrote it, because he was like, I know that they would have great notes, but it would take away from what I'm trying to do, which is just dive into my memories. He's like, if they would give me notes, but it would take away from what the movie is actually
Less
supposed
personal.
to be about. Yeah.
Wait, who are the three? Guillermo
Guillermo del Toro, Alejandro Iñárritu,
Oh, the guy that made
Iñárritu.
Birdman and Revenant, and
They're the three amigos.
They refer to themselves that way?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah, no, we're not.
No,
being
it's
racist.
a nickname that Mike and I came up with. No, it's like a licensed like production company.
Yeah, you guys accosted me at the door when I came in. You're like, we call them the Three Amigos.
And you are too.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome to our All Right podcast.
Oh Jesus! Oh God!
Oh no, what do we get ourselves into? Oh man. I don't know. I mean, now that we're into the thick of it, just to, I'm torn between two scenes as my favorite scenes in this movie. That beach scene is too perfect. It's just to not have that be my favorite scene. And I think that's where the final justification and it kind of wraps up the movie and really like solidified itself as like a masterpiece. Like as I was like watching it, is again. They get into the fucking perfect formation, and the sun's setting like behind their heads, and she's like, "I didn't want her," and I was just
I
like,
didn't want her to be born.
"Oh man, I can't even say that without getting like a little choked up." But it was just, I don't know. Again, that's a very kind of mixed thing to say. I'm sure it's not just plain I didn't want her. There's a lot of contributing factors and everything, but all of a sudden. It feels like some sort of justification kind of like falls in place with that, where I was able to forgive a previous scene for this kind of payoff.
I felt a little weird about that scene.
Okay.
Like I can get like the emotions of it. Like I understand fully what's going on.
Right.
But it felt like it was going into a weird message of like the miscarriage was okay because I have this like family that pays me.
No.
Like,
yeah.
No,
I think she finds healing through those kids though, and I think this is like but no, that is a weird. It is a
right. Like it was like
I think it's a
just
weird,
slightly off
really,
kilter of being like a perfect ending to this movie.
I think that act when she saved the children from drowning sort of assuaged her guilt just temporarily enough.
Yes.
For her to admit freely without feeling like a bad person. I didn't
like
want them.
She's a net positive force. She's not.
That's what I mean.
It's a really good.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Because like on face value, it kind of comes across as like, oh, like it's okay that whatever happened.
It's kind of jarring to hear. You're just kind of like, well, don't say that.
Like I don't need a kid.
You don't really mean that.
I don't need a kid of my own because I have the kids that I'm paid to look after.
Right.
That starts to get in some weird.
She was
class
being
stuff
superstitious. I think
weird.
it was like, I had this secret wish to not have the child,
Yeah.
and she's like, did that cause that? She's looking for the mom or the family to.
I do love though that like
absolve
that
her.
sort of comes out of like nowhere for the rest of the family. Like they're all just holding her like, we love you, Cleo, we love you, like whatever. And then she's like, they're all just trying to say stuff to her, thinking that she's crying about what just happened, but she's really letting this emotional release for what happened months ago for her. You know, like, I didn't want her to be born.
And I think that is like the kind of fucking like she doesn't say a lot like, oh, she's quiet and she doesn't have agency in her own life. Like I think that's like her character. She's so tender and loving and everything, and like she's not like a saint either, you know? Like it's just kind of, I don't know. I think she's a fantastic character, and this is like a really great performance. It's not my favorite like female performance of the year, but I really like it, and I do like this character. I kind of really enjoyed this story as opposed to a like, this is very similar to like Tree of Life or something, and I like this more than kind of if it were to be from the perspective of the kids or something, or just kind of like, remember our nanny growing up, kind of like, you know, like I don't know, or just like now we're older and we're looking, even though that is what Alfonso Cuarón's doing. There's just like a
it's weird because it works both ways.
Structure.
Like you can definitely look at it like that review looked at it like, oh, you want to write a movie about your nanny that you had in your like cushy privileged life,
right?
But like it would also be sort of like dick of him to be like, I'm going to make a movie about my childhood and we had a nanny, but I'm going to focus on me and everything's going to be about my character. I'm assuming he's the Paco character in this, like the
Is
kid.
it Pepe or is there a Paco?
I think there's two. I think there's Pepe and a Paco.
Okay.
Or Papo or something. I don't know. But
Hey, welcome back to the All Right Podcast. We love Pepe here. He's our favorite meme.
There is a Pepe in the film.
He is a frog.
Because he
you're
calls
right.
him Pepon
I'm pretty sure
at one point.
Like
And he loves President Trump. Okay, go.
I think he's supposed to be the kid that like he lies down on the like stone surface on the roof at one point. They're pretending they're dead. That's supposed to be.
Okay. That's
I'm
supposed to be
assuming because
him.
they have the closest connection. Like, there's also I really love the scene when they're all watching the TV together And like that's the thing. Like I think
I would
it would be one thing to like make a movie about your maid, but like I think he analyzes the honest truths of like we didn't probably treat her the best way we should have. Like they're watching the TV in that one sequence and they're all together, and then like the Paco character like puts his arm around her and they're just all embracing and having this great moment. And then the mom is like, "Can you get the doctor a tea?" And he's like, "Oh no, like I'm with Cleo, like don't let her go." And she had like she's part of the family, but she's not fully part of the family. She's the servant. She has to go serve their every need. Like the doctor didn't even ask for a tea.
Right.
His wife was just kind of like, get the doctor a tea.
You also like overhear a conversation of like she's like cleaning up, and you hear the doctor, the father, say like, you know, there's dog shit everywhere. The fridge is full of empty whatever, and it's like they're just establishing early like, oh, this dad sucks. Like,
Yeah. And yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just glad like this movie didn't have the structure of kind of like then at the end like little Pepe is now like full grown Sean Penn man, and he's like, I miss Cleo, you know. Just kind of.
I'll always remember that summer.
Yeah. I'll never forget you.
And that day at the beach.
And then he does the pose, and it fades to black.
And he closes his eyes as
my
if
God.
it's I wasn't there with her that day, but
Yeah, just like alone on the beach doing like a bow staff workout.
Oh my gosh.
I was mixing in a lot of different things. But that wasn't Sean Penn's voice. Sean Penn's from Tree of Life. Who's
I was
one
gonna
of the
say, where
older
did Sean
kids.
Penn?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
alright.
It's even though I love Tree of Life and it's one of my favorite movies. This I thought was like his own take of kind of like what like a Terrence Malick movie is kind of like, just because it is so atmospheric.
I loved how it went like, you know, obviously into super personal, intimate details of his life, and like supposedly like all the characters were cast like, obviously they wanted ones who would capture the feeling, but like also who looked like people from his life. And like I think the house was chosen based on his life, like down to like the tiles and stuff. Like he was literally I almost laughed when you said semi-autobiographical, because I think it literally is just autobiographical.
That house was cool. Like when there was that establishing shot of like upstairs, like going down
The steps, the fire escape or whatever that goes to the roof. I was like, I want
cool.
that.
Also, that was pretty cool. He was talking about that on the podcast about how like the movie starts with like water, like the droplets, and then like later on we are at like a creek, and then we finally go to like the ocean towards the end. And then she like ascends up into the sky. Like the last shot is her walking up the fire escape to her house, and he was kind of like, it's like the water cycle, if you want to look at it that way.
This movie was amazing.
But
like,
there was tons of visual metaphor. I was like
yeah.
surprised. It was like this
deep.
felt like Citizen Kane, and you could really analyze it.
I love how it
deeply.
goes personal and intimate and deep, but then it also has like these sort of like macro things going on. Like there's so much context about like the government and like the protests going on. Like that's probably one of my favorite scenes is
The furniture store.
Yeah, because that kind of feels like something out of Children of Men too. Like this sort of like war scene going on, and you find out that like the father of her child is part of this like paramilitary group that's just going around like randomly shooting people and being like.
That to me, that made it more interesting and kind of
definitely,
made it less personal. But it all felt to me like just almost, it was like heavy-handed. Like this is symptomatic of sort of male chauvinism or machismo.
Because I love during
the way things are.
The karate, sequence. She's like, "Is this for like the Olympics or something?" And he's like, "Yeah, something like that."
It made,
was.
It all made so much more sense when he was just kind of like, you know, like I grew up in a bad home and there was drugs and addiction and this, you know, karate saved my life. I was like, there has to be something more to this kind of.
And
like,
he straight up
obviously.
threatens her when she finds him.
I think it's bullheaded, like chauvinistic males. That's literally what he was.
But that was like
that scene is hard.
You want to see the best in someone. Obviously, he left, so he sucks. But like she seeks him out and finds him, and you're like, oh, maybe this will be the thing.
Maybe he was just
absolutely
him around, and no.
Yeah, no. And he like hops on the back of that truck when they're driving.
I also love his friend just being in like his boxers, like practicing with the band.
Yeah.
That's how you guys practice.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh man, that was sweet. That little outdoor setup.
Put some pants on.
And his friends just in the background, like it's like, not now. We're practicing. That I could definitely personalize with. Yeah,
that's another scene though where I'm just like, how the fuck did they time this kind of like? Because that's all in one shot where it's like some sort of like karate practice ending. Your mom picked you up in the minivan. No, karate practice ending.
Classic confluence.
Classic. He talks to her, and then he's like, all right, I gotta go, and he fucking runs across this whole
Hops
field
on the Jeep,
and then
yeah.
barely makes it onto a Jeep. And again, there's like 300 or 400 other people in that
Stuffed
shot.
in the car. Yeah.
There's a fucking scene in this where the camera's just kind of casually panning, and it happens to just perfectly catch a man being launched out of a fucking cannon in front of 400 people watching. And I'm just like, how did they time this?
Yeah.
How is this movie?
How many times did they try that?
Right,
That's what I wonder,
exactly.
how many takes it took.
Like the
him for
beach
a while.
shot, like they don't quite embrace correctly at the end. It's like, no, let's do
Yeah.
that again.
Oh, I'm
Like,
sorry, the sun wasn't cresting above your scalp.
You're gonna
It
have to
kind
come
of
back
it
tomorrow.
kind of
6
makes
months
like
to do it.
like I do love Birdman, but it kind of makes Birdman look silly because like that was the whole thing with Birdman was like
Right, yes.
it looks like it's one shot, but there's so many opportunities where like, well, they go through a doorway here, so here's the cut, or
Yeah.
someone walks in front of them, so here's the cut. But like here, like even though not the entire movie isn't that, every scene is just one thing, you know, like we don't cut, there's no like over the shoulder back and forth when there's a conversation. It's just that people happen to choreograph perfectly and they walk, you know, parallel to the camera, and then we pan around.
I love that about it too, because I feel like I get so sick, especially with like I don't know, standard blockbuster movies where
Right.
there's not a lot of thought given to the frame or like how, you know, it's the composite. It's just kind of over the shoulder, like two camera, whatever deal. I'm just like, this is so much better.
And a
This is-
conversation is just going back and forth in a
Yeah,
conversation. Like,
yeah.
this person's talking, so we look at them. This
Yeah.
person's talking, so we look at them.
Comedies
Again,
more
like
like
the
that,
audio is such a
usually.
huge part of it because like stuff will happen off screen just in conversations because the camera doesn't necessarily need to look over there when that's
Right.
happening. We can hear it with our ears. It uses all of the tools at its disposal.
And I like hesitate to call them like extras too. Like especially during that furniture scene, people are dying and shooting and everything, and it's so perfectly choreographed. They're like background artist or whatever, I think
Yeah.
is what they call them, and that's just fucking wild. It's just also like every scene's a fucking story, or every like frame's a fucking story.
Yeah.
Like you can see like, oh, the soldiers, bubblegum magazine, phone call. I mean, there's a woman in a heated fucking argument in like way back in a restaurant with like the owner, kind of like, it's just fucking wild. Like we're so used to, again, like I was telling you guys, like we review a lot of blockbuster or whatever, and like now it's just kind of like, if you want to fill out a scene, there's just digital effects, kind of.
Yeah.
And like this, like again, like we talked about, I think the Coen brothers did it for Hail Caesar. It's just kind of like you get those actual like you know, extras, and you fill out the scene, like just kind of like it's like fucking what's it called, River Kwai.
Bridge on the River Kwai.
Yeah, Bridge on the River Kwai, which had required like thousands of extras to make that movie or whatever. It's just kind of like calling back to that, but it's just kind of like, who would want fucking digital extras when you can have this? This is so beautiful.
Anytime there's anything in it.
I'm gonna get that.
All right, we're gonna take a quick pause right here.
Yeah,
All right, and we're back. A lot of premium content that you guys get.
Just say Premium Rush is
Premium
what
Rush
is the
content.
movie that we were talking about. Wait, did you guys actually see Premium Rush?
No, I haven't.
all right,
No.
all right.
I'm aware of what it is.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
I just saw the trailers. It looked like it
perfect.
It looks like somebody like cut the X Games kind of, and
There was a PS1 game called Courier Crisis. Also, didn't play that. Didn't see Premium Rush. Let's
Sounds
just move on. Yeah.
very similar.
It was very
His name is Wile E. Coyote.
similar aesthetics. Yeah.
Wow.
That's real.
no,
Jesus Christ.
that's not.
No, please no. All right, I think we're gonna get some ratings for this movie.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let me read the Rotten Tomatoes if I have that somewhere. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, Roma holds an approval rating of 96% based on 284 reviews, with an average rating of 9.1 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, Roma finds writer-director Alfonso Cuarón in complete, enthralling command of his visual craft and telling the most powerfully personal story of his career. Because he didn't steal it.
Oh man,
Volunteers to go
who wants
first?
to go first with this one?
I'll give it 4.5 fingers. So 4 fingers, 1 flange. I thought it was really, really well done. One of the best things I saw all year that came out this year, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go next. Yeah. I mean, if you want to speak any final pieces on it, too, you can speak up. Yeah. Just to like revisit again. I'm I'm trying to think of what I haven't brought up so far. I don't know. I think every detail. I think this movie is just jam packed with fucking detail too. I don't know. Again, I think it's kind of like representing, like just like we're talking about with like representation and everything. I think it's representing an entire country and culture that Hollywood is largely not interested in. You know, unlike fucking, I don't know. I'm just thinking about movies that we review and everything, like Sicario or something. Like, you know, like some of those scenes like that took place in Mexico, they looked like scenes like in Logan, like, you know, like a superhero kind of like just like El Paso, you know. Yeah. Whereas this, it's just kind of like I've seen like a lot of people and everything who are just kind of like that's the exact fucking like silverware we had, you know, in Mexico and everything. It just looked very accurate. It looked like a lot of love was put into this and everything. That being said, this movie can be both like too real, I think, at some times for me, especially during like some of these harrowing scenes and everything. And then also, this movie can also just be pretty romanticized. But yeah, it's just kind of like where I landed on that kind of stillbirth scene. It's just kind of like, man, that's a fucking raw reality for some people. And again, I do think, I don't know, he pays off everything. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I mean, complaints, I feel like we've been praising the movie this whole time. I feel like the mom goes through a pretty stereotypical divorce. I think I don't even think we said also, like, this movie really goes from, like, me, like, not, like, when I was watching it, it went from just, like, me not really being interested to me thinking this was, like, kind of like a masterpiece, kind of. Like, I've never really felt that way about, like, a movie this year or in previous years. It was just, like, a gigantic shift. Mm-hmm. Just because it starts so slice of life and everything. And I think Alfonso Cuarón has some masterful strokes in this. I think there's some extremely long, deliberate, like, camera motions that are just loaded with detail. And I think that's, I don't know. This movie, I don't know. I do think this movie is a masterpiece. I don't think it's a perfect rating. I think I'm also going to give it a 4.5 fingers. But yeah, it's pretty damn near close. I would like to see it somewhere that isn't Netflix. I would love to see this in somewhere that has Dolby Atmos and decent projection and everything. So yeah, that's right. I would highly recommend people see this movie. I think it's my favorite movie of the year after, like, Sorry to Bother You or something. And also, the sound design is incredible, even just through the limited sound I have. Yeah. Some of those gunshots and a fucking, like, burning tree that's falling. Yeah. Like, it sounds better than, like, so many, like, very high budget films that we've watched this year. You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's where I'm going to end my review. 4.5 fingers.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think that I've never made a movie. I have no idea what really much goes into making a movie. Mm-hmm. But when you think about if you're just a photographer, it's setting up a single photo that you would like to take, just the artistry of it, and doing that for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, like that's what this movie is. Like just intricately, you know, just crafted shots. Like if you're doing that just for an instant moment, like that's insane. But doing that for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, or however long this was, maybe
like 2.5.
Not quite 2.5. Right. Yeah. So I mean, even if I wasn't captivated by the plot or the characters or something, just this would just be a visual spectacle. And like we said, it's black and white, which also it was like didn't quite seem. I don't know if this, you know, it didn't quite seem grayscale. It was like
there's
sort of sepia.
Depth. Yeah, there's a lot of depth to the black and white.
You guys think like it wasn't quite just like gray? I don't know. Maybe it was my TV or something.
I don't know. Range to it.
I prefer the smoothing. I like to smooth all my movies.
You guys didn't change your TV to the optimal viewings.
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
So it was on after the hockey game.
Okay. So that was the thing too. Like before I watched it, I just like Googled like what is this movie because you gave us a list and I was like okay.
And that was your smoothing on.
But that was the thing. It's like here's how to turn off your smoothing for Roma, and it's
really?
Like yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know.
You didn't see like the Tom Cruise did like a PSA about it.
Did he?
It was he was dressed up as his character from Top Gun.
Okay.
Really?
and he gave like a PSA about like, hey, like I think it was a part of the Mission Impossible, promo or whatever. Yeah, it was just kind of like, if you guys are going to take home this movie and watch it on your TVs, we want you guys to see how it's meant to be seen. And he gives you step-by-step instructions.
It wasn't meant to be seen like a soap opera.
My folks refused to turn it off for like a year after they bought this TV, and I turned it off for them, and they didn't say anything.
I'm pushing back also
I go
on
home,
this.
I'm like, all right, all is as it should be.
Much like I did for people watching this on their phone, I'm pushing back against this. Now, I would never watch a smoothed out movie, but I think like sort of like
a camcorder or something.
Right.
So
but like if someone likes it and doesn't notice or care, like I don't know. That just seems to me like,
are you gonna shame them for it?
No, it's just like pointless flexing.
Yeah.
Like, I know how to watch a movie. Like the sort of thing where it's like someone shooting a video with their phone. It's like, turn it horizontal instead of vertical.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm not shooting a movie. I'm shooting like two dudes fighting
filming
outside of my phone. So it's like you can't fight what people are doing just to try to act like I know how a movie is made. You know what I mean?
If I'm watching it at their house, they got to turn it the fuck off.
That's fine.
It's so
fine.
distracting to me.
And I
it's
think
like
it looks
watching
bad
a BBC
too.
play or something. You know the vibe I'm talking.
I think it looks bad and weird too, but I think that a lot of it comes from people just like sort of flexing, like, I know how to watch a movie, versus actually caring about how
No, I feel it.
Having said that, four fingers.
Oh, okay. nice.
Good movie. Great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can turn it off for your parents, but I wouldn't go over a stranger's house and be like, and you're gonna want to turn this
Peering
off.
through the window.
I mean, I totally did the thing that you just were talking about to my dad, because it's my dad, and I just felt like I should.
You can push him around.
You're not getting it.
Like, he beat up his dad too.
Like, it's cool to flex on your dad.
Yeah.
Because you're
there
like,
anyone else?
You're watching like really old movies, and then stuff that's like canon, and then you go back and you watch it with that smoothing, you're just like, this is unrecognizable.
I think it looks bad. I just think that a
feels
lot of
icky.
that comes from like when people are like, oh, you like your steak well done. Like, here's how you make a steak.
Watch-
And of course a well done steak sucks.
Watch
but it's like,
Frankenstein with this thing on, and
it just comes from people
know what
wanting
I'm
to
saying.
show that, like, I know how to eat a steak and watch a movie. It's like, shut up. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, at the
Four fingers.
Institute, that's how we watch everything.
4 fingers. Like,
You ever see that like that thread on like Twitter though, where there's a bunch of people like flexing, like, don't talk to me unless you eat your chicken like medium rare or something. It's just it's just people
like dangling pink chicken.
just like people cutting
sup?
open their chicken and there's like pink in the middle, and they're kind of like, and they're like doing this weird flex
the
like
flavor
it's a
lives.
steak, but they're doing it with chicken, and like nobody has informed these people that like you can
Poultry.
yeah, you don't do that with poultry. It's just like a funny meme for a while because there's tons of people like, that's the beauty of Twitter, is that you can just throw out a net and get like this collection of people that are just like,
Raw
oh
chicken
god.
eaters.
Yeah.
I mean, just to comment again on like the Netflix thing, like I totally understand your point of like society moves and you got to sort of move with it. Like, it reminds me of like in the sort of like English field, whenever like the dictionary will put out like, oh, these are the new words, everyone's like, why is fucking twerk in the dictionary?
Yes.
And it's
Right.
like, well, because words describe something, and if a word is generally understood to describe something, it goes in the dictionary. That's the place for those things. Language evolves. We don't speak Old English anymore because society is always moving forward. And I feel the same way about film and stuff like that. But for this, I just feel like it was a movie that was not meant to be on. It's not like a movie that was created for Netflix.
Right.
It's not created to be watched on a bad TV or on your phone or something like that. It was clearly meant to be enjoyed in the theater, and it didn't get the release that it really was warranted for it. I'm trying not to hold that against it, because obviously there are people who could have gone and seen this in the theaters and gotten the full experience. The movie is not necessarily the medium that you watch it through. So looking through that lens, I think I'm going to give it 4.5 as well. Like it just didn't fully click in like the perfect sense for me, but it is mostly there. I kind of went into it wanting to hate it because of Alfonso Cuarón and Gravity. But I was sort of won over by what I thought was very masterful camera work, and especially the sound design. Like you can have movies where like those things are done very technically well. Like it looks good to watch and it sounds good to watch. But like in this, they're part of just the immersion in this story and the storytelling of the story. Like the way that the camera never zooms in or out, it just dollies left and right and pans left and right. The way that the audio is really putting us in the environment of where these characters are, rather than just like capturing explosions really good in a war scene. I think this is really masterful filmmaking. It didn't fully. I can't even really articulate the complaints that I have. It just wasn't totally fully there for me. So I'll give it 4.5. It's just shy of being a 5-finger movie, but I can't quite commit to 5 fingers for this.
That's fair. No, I feel the same exact way. It's just kind of, I think I have minor complaints. I think all of the big complaints I see on the internet, I tried to slam dunk on most of this podcast that we did together. There was still something that was just like, I don't know, something was missing, and I can't totally put my finger on it either. So,
so all that's going to come out to 4.375, which will round down to 4 fingers. So Matt wins.
That's right. Let's all go see Premium Rush.
Let's get some last plugs for Seagulls in. Where can people find Seagulls?
Oh, yeah. So we're on Spotify. That's sort of where we push people to the most, but also seagulls.bandcamp.com, Amazon, iTunes, you name it. Our new record, Throne Voice, is out tomorrow. Our new record. Yep. Worked very hard on that for a few years. And we're super proud of it. We're super proud of the videos that we made for it. There's really not much I feel like I can say about it. I feel like we put everything, our feelings on the world and everything into it. So if you like, like slightly weird indie rock pop with a lot of harmonic vocals, it's friendly. We're big with moms. Moms like us.
Getting that mom demo, you know?
yeah. We get the iTunes numbers. We're like, moms aged 30 to 32, love us.
57% moms.
Check that out. Check us out in Philly if you're local. I sort of looked at the camera again.
How dare you?
Never.
We don't do it all the time.
Straight to camera. The record's out with Evergreen Prefecture is doing the digital side, and Honest Faced Records is putting out the CD. So if you're interested on either side, they're helping us out. Chris, your band?
Oh, yeah. I have a band called Zinski, too. Zinske. We're putting out a record next year.
Oh, hell yeah.
But
Awesome.
Nothing immediate to promote. So, yeah, the show for Seagulls at Philomoka is 1/12?
Yes, January 12th, Saturday, January 12th.
Saturday that this comes out, yeah.
With some great other acts, Spirit House, Q, and Urban, all of them. We love all their music, and we're friends with them. We're working on some special projections and stuff for our set with our guy that does all of our art. So we're trying to make it very special. We don't know exactly when we're going to be able to play some more shows again after that, so we're trying to make this one super cool and special.
Come and buy a mausoleum. Nothing else.
They make them there. Yeah, Diplo's there.
And you might see Diplo.
Oh, he's going to be there. I've got word.
We'll charge him at the door. Yeah.
Awesome.
I will also say, and I meant to bring this, but I forgot, we are putting the album out on Sega Genesis cartridge. That is a special edition.
Oh, really?
I am kicking myself. Once I got here, I realized I didn't bring it. Maybe we can put that in the description, subscribe.
We'll just do like this.
Smash. Green screen it right here. But so it's basically a USB.
That's a real thing?
It's a USB drive that, we sort of reformat.
Okay.
We're currently working on the instruction manual in there.
Does it plug
I'm
into
sure
a
it'll be
Sega Genesis?
No,
or a
it's
computer?
got a thumb drive in
Okay.
it. So you plug it into your computer, and it's got the album. It's got demos and all the special stuff on there. So digital, CD, and then the super special one is on Sega Genesis cartridge. And maybe if labels are interested, we can do vinyl someday. Labels, what up? But until then, we have a Sega Genesis cartridge.
Early reviews are calling it a premium rush.
A lot. Joseph Gordon-Levitt specifically has said this album is a premium rush. Yeah.
A+ premium rush.
All right, so definitely check out that album on Spotify. And
Seagulls.
Then, yes, and then
We'll link it below. Yeah.
Swing over to our page because we're now on Spotify as a podcast. So you can
Once
check
you're done
us
listening
out.
to the album.
Yeah, for sure. And then everything else for us, you can find at howmanyfingerspodcast.com, or we'll cover in the intro. Thanks so much for coming on, guys.
For sure. Thanks
this
for
was
having
awesome.
us.
Thank you for having us.
It was great.
And good luck with everything in the release of the album.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Signing out for How Many Fingers, the podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
Matt.
Premium rush one?
We'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.